Hello and welcome to Teching It Up with Mark. Today we're going to start a workflow using the K2 REST API. This is a pretty simple video, so I think you should have no trouble following along, but if you do, leave a comment and maybe I can help explain a little bit better. Let's get started. So the first thing we want to do is enable the APIs. I'm here on my virtual machine and I went to the management site. From there, I'll go to Integration, Expand APIs, and go to Workflow REST. Make sure the Workflow REST API is turned on here. I have already done that previously. Then from here, we can preview the versions. So I usually put this to version 1, but I don't think there's a difference between the preview or version 1. Here we have the Swagger URL. And we also have the based URL that we'll be using in our calls. We can also enable some things for cross-origin resource sharing. So if we have this on another web page to call a start workflow, we could put that in the allowed domains. Make sure to click apply changes once you've changed something here. And the first thing we'll visit is the Swagger URL. Now, if you do this on K2 Cloud, let's see, you might not be able to log into the Swagger endpoint. Now, I'll sign in with my basic credentials, and that's why you can't, because it's using basic credentials. Or is it a double hop issue? I'm not sure. I forgot. Here, we see all the endpoints that are in this REST service. So the Swagger file definition here, it just makes things a little bit easier to navigate. And we'll have our operations, server events. So this is for use within a workflow. If you want to wait for a workflow to wait on an external system to update that will be answered through one of these server event calls that will have that here. So we would pass that to the external system. The external system would use that serial number to complete the task, and then the workflow could complete. We have task. So this is such as completing a task for a user if needed. They can also do that through this URL. Also some of these basic actions like reassign, wake, release, things like that. And what we'll be looking at today, workflows itself. So we can just get all workflows. So if I try this out, let's see. Yes, here's the response body. I could see I have 27 workflows that I brought back to me with an ID, default version ID, the name, the folder the workflow was at, and the system name, which would be the folder // I think it's normally just one slash here, but this is because it's encoded, and then the workflow name. So these are the workflows that we see in management, the publish or deployed workflows, whatever terminology you want to use here. So for example, we should see one for workflow REST API, log variables. So if we go to the bottom of this list, I see this here. Oh, I don't see this here. Let's see. 14, 11, 13. Workflows. Schedule tests, my workflow. Log variables. Here we go. Workflow REST API. I guess this is not sorted by default. And we see here the name of it, the folder, and the system name. And the ID. This will be important in a later step. So we see an ID of 30 here, just for some information. If we go and click on our workflow in management, we would see that same workflow ID at the end here. So this is another way to retrieve it. So this just gets a list of all workflows. That's through the Swagger page. Let me just close this. We can get an individual workflow here. So this time I'll use workflow 30 that I've created for this demo. Try it out. We have much of the same information. We also have the workflow schema here. So I think this has the data types or variables here. So the data fields will be interesting for us. I don't think that's very useful. We also have get schema of the workflow. So I think maybe this will be in a better format for us of what we want to send in. So I'll put workflow 30 in here. Try it out. Yep, and here we have the data fields and what type they are too. So I have a text variable and a number variable called number var. Let me just show that in Designer too. So here in my workflow rest folder, I have this log variables workflow. I'll click edit. Very simple workflow, just sets the folio and starts a workflow and sets up variables. If I go over here and variables, I see number var, other var. So number var is a number, other var is text, and then I just have text var. I could see that here in the schema. So I have number var, the type is an integer, other var, type is a string, and somewhere I should have text var, also a string. Yep. And the more interesting one, what we actually want to do here is the post, which will actually start a workflow. Oh, I don't know what's happening there. So from here, I can put in the ID that I need, so 30. And we need some instance data here. So this will be, if I look at this for reference, I will need to put in the data fields if I want them. This is just some example ones. If we click it, it will go over here. And here we only need to fill in the information that we need here. So let me try to do this just with nothing. I think this will give me an error. Yep, required. So if needed, I could just put some empty body there. Try it out. Awesome. I got a response with 3087. If I go to management, let's see if that's there. Probably ran already. I should be able to see a workflow report of 3087. Yep, completed. And if I look at the view flow, if I go to the data audit, I could see that, and I could see what variables I put in. This time I didn't set the variables. I just put in an empty object. However, if I wanted to, I could do that also here. So let's put that in there. This will be as, let me just click this again. I guess I gotta type it out. So this object will have property called data fields, which will be an object. And in here, we just put our data fields with the type. So another way I could see this too, if I go to start new, I go to data and XML fields, I see the ones that we have there. So I'll try to put something in for text var and for number var. So I'll put in the name, text var, and that will be equal to test from Swagger. And then we'll put in number var. That will be without quotes. And just put 10. Let's see if I messed up the syntax somewhere. Probably. Oh no, we got another one. Response 3088. So I'll go back to management. Reports, so this ran so quickly I don't see it in the instances because instances only show me running workflows or errored workflows. I'll refresh this list, 3088. Okay, I'll look at the view flow. Good, and went through. If I click on here on the star thing, it takes me to another report. And from the data audit, I could see the variables that I put in. Now I'm just going to do this one through this HTTP REST client too, because we have to set the headers here, and it doesn't hold your hand as much as it would through using Swagger. We could also always look at the request in the browser through Swagger. But so the first thing we're going to do is get the workflow endpoint. So that would be from here, integration, workflow REST. I would just copy this endpoint here, back to my file. So workflows, and the actual endpoint is workflows. So if I put that in, let me just do this again. If I can find out where everything. Get workflows. This would be a GET request. I'll put down the root. And then workflows is this endpoint. I can either look that up in the documentation from the Swagger file. I could also see it here. So I see workflows from the base URL, and then I can see just this by itself without an ID will give me the list. So I'll do that. Workflows. If I try this by itself, I think I'll get an error. 401 unauthorized. Of course, I need my authorization. So this is basic username, password. This server is not accessible externally, so I don't think it's a security risk putting this password in. Most people would probably guess it too. So now if I add that in with authorization, header, and this tool, this REST client API also encrypts this automatically for it. I prefer this tool. I've used it in other videos too over Postman because I find it much more straightforward than Postman. I just put the request in how it looks with headers and body, and then I get a result back. Nothing too fancy on top of it. But anyways, here I get the same thing I got in the Swagger page. So I get the response headers and then the body itself. So how many workflows there is. So for this, we find the same workflow that we had before. So I think this was ID 30. Good, ID 30. I have there. From there, if we wanted to get information about that particular workflow, I'll just put it in here, 30 at the end, send that as a GET request again. Good. We have this log variables workflow from the REST API like we did before. We have the schema. What was the one to get schema? So we'll do the get schema one too. Schema. Put schema at the end if I want to know the schema. I should know this from developing the workflow anyways, of course, but if maybe we would need to pass this information to somebody else. But here I see the data fields. I need to make this a little bit nicer. So now if I wanted to start one, I would just change this to a post request. I can keep the authorization as it is, take off schema from the endpoint. And now I just have to give it a body. So right underneath this will be the body. And as JSON, I think I'll need to set the content type too. We'll try it without. Folio. Folio is set in the workflow. So I don't need to add this. I can if I want to. I'll just put this in. Folio. Mark test. We'll try putting in something that I don't normally put in too, like the priority. Priority. We'll try to make it 3. Did I spell it right? Priority. Yes, I did. But probably not capitalized. Not sure if it matters. Be nice if they had a little bit more thing in the schema about this. Oh, and then of course my data fields. So this will be another object, data fields. You can see I've done this below, and another object in there where I have the individual fields. So I have text var. I'll make it hello world. Boo. I don't like my examples here. I need to get a little bit more creative. Number var. This will be just a number. 6868. All right, let's give this a try. Probably get an error. So we'll send the request. This request, no content type header. Okay. So we need to tell what kind of body this is. In this case, it's JSON data, so that would be application JSON. I haven't tried it as the other types, but I like JSON data the best anyways. So, okay, great. We got a workflow ID back. So now if I go to management, go to 3089, if I go to that particular workflow, or you know what I can do too? I could just cheat here and put this process instance ID 89 in the URL too. And just to prove that, I'll put something that doesn't exist. Oh, need my numlock on. 90 should give me some kind of error. All right, yeah, it doesn't exist. 3089, I got that there. Let's check the variables. Data audit. Hello world. Good. What I put in there. So that was starting a workflow with the K2 REST API. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like if you liked it. Not the highest effort video, but at least we got one out there. Comment, subscribe, tell your friends. Thank you. Have a nice day, and we'll see you again later.